I had a compulsive liar girlfriend who tainted other friendships I had but still wanted to be with me. In the end, she asked me out while selling me an engagement ring for someone else. My psycho ex story. My psycho ex stole my car keys and I believed I lost them. The first time I got back to my car from a movie with him while on a date. He had left for about 20 minutes twice during the movie. He ran off as soon as the movie was over and I got back and it was parked in a different spot, smelled like cigarettes and there were other people's clothes in it. I was so shocked I drove home and was too scared to tell my parents because I wasn't supposed to be at the movies. It was so unbelievable I didn't know what to say or do. The second time it happened, I asked him if I could park in his driveway because he lived right by my school and I had lost my parking privileges at the school, and he was the only person I knew so close to campus. I got back from class and my car smelled like weed, all the gas was gone, seat was moved. I called the cops and he told them that I gave him permission. His word against mine, so they dropped it. He ended up going to jail for robbing an ATM not long after. He stole the remote to my family's front gate so he had access to my house at all times. We had to get an expensive security panel installed after that. Once I told him I was leaving my house to get coffee with my friend. I'd forgotten something, so we drove back and I saw him walking towards my house with a duffel bag and someone I'd never seen before. The cops told me that they were very familiar with him and that he was a sociopath. I had to change my phone number and was terrified for months that I would run into him again. This is all the same person. My girlfriend now is my crazy ex story and I don't know how to get out of it. She is an extremely evil person. I have always been a shy, quiet person, an introvert. After about 6 months dating, she asked me why I was so weird. It hurt, but I brushed it off. We have been together for 4 years now. Not a day goes by where she doesn't tell me how worthless I am. How meaningless my life and job is. I tried to kill myself and almost succeeded, and she now says I need to go kill myself and I should just end my life. She has alienated me from all my friends. She hits me constantly. Like daily. She says it's because she loves me, she wouldn't hit me if she didn't love me. But my face last month looked like I won a full match with Mike Tyson. I'm still recovering from a ruptured eardrum. It's gotten to the point where I flinch if she moves too fast. Which then leads to me getting hit for flinching and embarrassing her. She says I'm not a man, worthless piece of shit, pathetic. I opened up about a fetish I have, now she calls me a pervert, that is new this week. The list goes on. I just don't know how to get out of it. My crazy ex-husband started taking shots of Patron, after popping a handful of Percocet, while we were out to dinner with our children to celebrate his birthday. During the celebration, he had his phone up his ass, and had been texting his brother the entire evening. On our way home, with me at the helm of the vehicle, he decided it was a brilliant idea to throw his phone out the window at a stop sign. I put the car in park, exited the vehicle, retrieved his phone, and when I returned to the car I put his phone behind me so he wouldn't do it again. You would have thought that I had shot his mother. He began trying to turn off the car, started hitting the steering column, was screaming at the top of his lungs. It was manic. When we got home, he jumped out of the car, sans phone, and I told the children to stay put. I popped it in reverse, and started moving down the driveway. That prick came hauling ass down the driveway like a banshee and jumped on the running board, face melted into a frightening state of rage, and tried to beat out the driver's window of my car. At this point, my children were in the back seat screaming and crying, and there was no freaking way in hell I was going to let them witness as their mother get beat to a bloody pulp, so I threw the car in gear and hit the accelerator. He flew off the truck and I took off, and didn't stop until I got to my mom's. He canceled both my phone and his, since I still had it. Turns out he had been texting his brother about going out for his birthday and picking up bitches. You know. Since I wasn't going to put out. He called the police and told them I tried to run him over, and asked them to do a welfare check on the kids at my mom's. The police talked to the kids, and saw the obvious marks on my window from his face and fists, and knew his story was shit. I left that day with the clothes on our backs. The kids were subjected to so much shit after I left, and I finally had it made to where they never have to visit him without supervision again. It's that bad. I'm now remarried to a much, much better man. He's a much better role model for the kids. I broke up with a crazy girl. I use the term broke up with loosely because I thought we were friends with benefits and she took it a little more serious. Anyways, she said that she was pregnant, I know, only a little crazy. But she maintained this for about 9 months. She would send me pictures of ultrasounds, and after the baby was born, she'd send pictures of her breastfeeding, and in little outfits. She maintained all of this until the baby was about a week old and I asked for the paperwork to have the kid added to my benefits, and a DNA test. Once I tried to do what I thought was the right thing, despite my freaking the F out, it came out that it was her friend's baby. Freaking beach was nuts. TL, DR. Crazy sorta ex pretended she was pregnant and made someone else's baby suck on her titties to convince me she had my baby. I had another girl who was into ass to mouth. Well, one day she decided, now's a good time to suck his poop pecker, and proceeded to immediately spit something out, and go back at it. It sounded like she was spitting out a watermelon seed. At the moment I didn't think much of it, but after the lights came on, there was a piece of brown lettuce stuck to the wall. I ended up having to repaint so I would stop seeing it. When I was 21 I started dating this guy who was about 30. I was one of those girls who insisted I needed to date older guys because I was so mature. Never mind the fact that he lived with his hoarder mother, had no job, no car, but plenty of, I'm so much better than everyone's attitude. He was basically emotionally a teenager, and just a jerk. He'd insult me constantly, publicly make fun of my appearance. He couldn't take no for an answer. He wanted to hang out every day, when I was exhausted from 10-hour shifts at work. One time when I was sick, I told him I couldn't pick him up that day. He insisted on it because he wants to take care of me. Whatever. I agreed, drove the 30 minutes to pick him up, and back. He spent the whole day just complaining. I'm bored. Why won't you talk more? Don't you appreciate me coming over? Why do you want to sleep? Spend time with me. I didn't have to do this. Etc. He was insanely jealous and suspicious. My yard at the apartment I lived in sloped down from the road, and the wind always blew down trash people threw out of their cars, including a cigarette butt in the driveway, and he saw it and accused me of cheating because it wasn't his brand. Finally broke up with him. He stole and broke my iPod. He texted me nearly a year later to inform me that he was getting married to the perfect woman and was so much happier. Then 6 months after that, to inform me that she cheated on him and they split up. He wanted a hookup, I declined. He claimed he had nudes of me from when we dated and threatened me with them. I told him he was pathetic. He's sporadically texted me since then but I never reply anymore. Maybe my nudes are out there somewhere, but whatever. Dated a super manipulator. Lied the entire time we dated. Found out she cheated on me with her boss. That was what started to peel away her false exterior. Soon after found out she was addicted to painkillers when I had to miss work to go pick her up from her job, where she had a seizure. Found out eventually she took a mystery pill she found. Her excuse for using pills? She claimed to have miscarried, hint hint, she didn't and was never even pregnant, and couldn't cope. Found out the boss wasn't an isolated incident, she was also screwing my neighbor, randoms from the internet, had a 55-year-old sugar daddy, and an ex-con, who was giving her free pills. Routinely would cause fights with me and attack me physically, and due to her small stature, 4 feet 10, I had no choice but to leave when it would happen. So she would cut herself to get me not to. Signed me up for joint credit cards without my permission, then maxed them, to the tune of $10,000. The final straw was when I finally got a distance from her. She broke into my house to steal my dogs, and smashed some family heirlooms. Called the police and she just openly started punching me in the face in their presence. Got a no trespass order. She married the ex-con who was back in prison. This absolved me somehow of the debt. I think. Either way it disappeared. Edit, to clarify some things. I did indeed find out that the miscarriage was a fabrication. The dogs were never taken or harmed successfully. Jerry and Reggie are currently looking at me from the foot of the bed waiting for their foodie. However, I was left with a pair of cats she wanted, who were never vetted and thus started a kitten factory. When I finally got the trespass order, Guess who leave just far enough to not break the order? That's right, the neighbor she was screwing. Guess who let her stay? Same freaking guy. Well, I guess he got his in the end, kind of. We had a litter of 8 kittens yet to be weaned. When I got rid of her, it was her crutch to stay in contact. She insisted she had homes all lined up and couldn't renege on them. So I gave her the 8 kittens. Well, I found out recently she never rehomed them all. Just 1 or 2. She dumped the other 6 on the neighbor. The neighbor got fed up and threw all the kittens in the surrounding woods. I still see a stray or 2 around the neighborhood, but they're very skittish and I haven't been able to do anything about them. The kicker is I got the blame by other neighbors. The cats ended up having a second litter of 8 and then surrendered to AHS. It was pointed out she may have been bipolar/mentally ill. She was prescribed Prozac by her HCP. Why? I don't know. But the prescription ran out and she had to see him again, and I know he recommended she saw a psychiatrist and I don't think she ever did. Edit 2, for clarification, she fabricated the miscarriage story, which I obviously tried to be compassionate about, which is why I put up with all this bullshit for as long as I did. I lived in a dorm, she lived an hour away. We met on Tinder and hit it off. She seemed really cool at first. She used to hang out at our dorm here and there, or I'd go hang out at her place. Everyone enjoyed having her around, etc. She wasn't entirely over her ex, and I didn't really care too much since our relationship wasn't very serious. Anyway, apparently someone from my dorm decided to message her ex using a fake Facebook profile, saying how she's seeing another guy or some shit, and that she's over him and shit like that. That night she busted into the dorms at like 1 a.m., and started screaming and banging on my door. I'm freaking out like what the F, is someone trying to murder her or something? Anyway, she shows me the message and I'm like, really? You woke the whole building up for this? And she gets livid saying that I'm trying to ruin shit with her ex and stuff. She freaking woke every single person up in the dorm until I got her out of the building and locked the door. I don't know who sent that message, but I guess I can thank them for helping me dodge that bullet before it got too serious. I dated this guy for almost 3 years. One day, I found a second cell phone in his room with only one phone number, incoming and outgoing calls, but a different area code, so I called the number. I explain who I am and tell her that I am not the enemy and I just needed some answers. She confesses to me that she has, in fact, been dating my boyfriend for 5 years, although she has never met him. She met him in a cybersex chat room, remember that being a thing? While she was investigating him for pedophilia, but turned out he was not a pedophile but just a pervert who liked cybersex. They began a relationship 5 years ago. That means, I was the other woman. Anyway, she tells me that she knows about me but she's going to finally meet him and move in together. They spent Valentine's Day together on the phone, both ordering takeout meals and pressing play of the same DVD while on the phone together. I noped out of there as quickly as I could. I told her that she would not have to worry about me being the other woman any longer, and I would gladly bow out of Crazy Town, and I hoped they were happy together. He got me pregnant and I was scheduled for an abortion. I was only 17, so he agreed to come with me because I didn't want anyone else to know. It was a complete accident. I was on the pill at the time and still don't know what happened. He was my first real boyfriend and it happened 2 months after losing my virginity. The morning of the procedure, he didn't show up. Okay, except when it was all done I went onto Facebook and he had posted a status something like, "When your ex pretends to be pregnant to get you back." Laugh face. We had mutual friends who were all commenting that I was crazy, blah blah, and I was faced with the option of ignoring it and having everyone think I was some crazy girl, or defending myself publicly to friends and family about something traumatic that I just went through. Up until the day of, he was sympathetic, and I even peed on a test in front of him. I ultimately couldn't bring myself to talk about it yet, so I ignored it and deleted Facebook for over 2 years. I also didn't date again until my 20s because of it. Over the years it came up several times through rumors and friends of friends. I even had one guy refuse to date me because of my crazy ex persona. He later went to prison for beating the shit out of another girlfriend and killed himself in there. I've never gotten the chance to defend myself, and there are people who still think I'm a nut job to this day. The only person I would consider a crazy ex was a compulsive liar that I dated for a couple of months. She was a coworker of mine at my first job and we arranged our first date when we were working. Later that day I was talking with her on the phone and she informed me that she loved me. It freaked me out a little bit because we knew each other for about a week at this point. But we were in high school and I was just glad to have a girlfriend. Over the next couple of months she stood me up a few times, but I had a good time on the dates she did make. But I started to feel distant from her. She was getting upset that I wasn't saying, "I love you" to her. I started realizing that the two of us had next to nothing in common. This ranged from bigger things like life ambitions to smaller things like person taste in entertainment. And she made quite the big deal out of how she couldn't believe that I liked certain things and I didn't like her choices. She wasn't aware of something called personal preference. I also started finding little lies popping up. She could never keep her stories straight and I started not trusting her. Anyway, I had self-esteem issues and stuck with the relationship for a couple of months. I started wanting to get out of it, because I knew it wasn't going to work. I had never broken up with someone before and I knew it was going to crush her. I was weak and an idiot. I stopped calling her. Granted, she never noticed because she called me probably 29 out of 30 times. I spent most of our conversations trying to find my words and get the courage to break up with her, always failing. Finally, after a week of this she asks me if I want to break up. I said yes, and sure enough she freaks out, crying. When she asked why, I list basically everything I said in the previous paragraph. The conversation ends and I felt a bit better that I finally got that over with. Fast forward a couple of days and we both are working together. I hadn't been thinking about the next time I'd see her. And she broke down crying again. The manager spent some time consoling her in the locker room. Over the next week a few different coworkers who I considered friends started to distance themselves from me. Finally I confronted one of them about what was going on to discover that they all thought I was a jerk because I broke up with this girl because we didn't like the same music. This is apparently what she had been telling everyone. She picked one thing out of the laundry list of reasons I gave her and focused on that. This damaged numerous friendships and tainted my reputation. That wound up taking a long time to restore. But the fun doesn't stop there. Over the next several years I kept running into this girl. And she would regularly propose that we get back together. Nope. Just nope. If I spotted her I would do everything in my power to not be seen by her. It was getting ridiculous. But the last time I talked to her was quite satisfying. I was at the mall to make a final payment on an item I had on layaway. I enter the store and there she was, behind the counter. She must have recently started because I had never seen her over the previous few months. So she's chatting with me as I'm making my payment and she, once again, asks if I want to get together. I simply ask her. "You do know you just sold me an engagement ring, right?" TLDR. I had a compulsive liar girlfriend who tainted other friendships I had but still wanted to be with me. In the end she asked me out while selling me an engagement ring for someone else.